Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I rise to support this petition by Madam Annette Mbogo, who the Deputy Leader of Majority tells me is from Kilifi County, and a very good scholar and lawyer. Honorable Speaker, in support of this petition, she avers, Honorable Speaker, that she has, or her organization has made efforts to have this matter addressed through the filing of a constitutional petition asking the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya to request His Excellency the President to form a judicial commission of inquiry to look into the rampant cases of enforced disappearances, and the same has not been fruitful. Honorable Chair, Speaker, I do not know whether the chair of this committee is in the House, but probably this should be amongst the recommendations that the committee should come up with, that we do institute a commission of inquiry to get to the root cause of why people are forced to disappear. This thing we are calling forced disappearances, Mr. Speaker, and I don't know what is a forced disappearance, because what we are calling forced disappearances, Honorable Speaker, are outright killings, because there is no way you can disappear into thin air and never be found. Honorable Speaker, I also have cases in my constituency. A son to Mzee Mishuki, who is my very good friend, who just disappeared into thin air. And as the petitioner avers in this petition, Honorable Speaker, in most of these cases, these are people who are allegedly arrested by people who claim to be policemen. And let us be fair, Honorable Speaker, and honest to ourselves. It is not just people who claim to be policemen. It has been actually policemen who have been abducting people in this country and killing them in broad daylight. Honorable Speaker, it is sad that when His Excellency the President disbanded what was called the SSU, I don't know special what, that unit, which was a murderous unit, Honorable Speaker, under the office of the DCI. There are many people who sought to use that as an opportunity to make politics out of it. And I was shocked, Honorable Speaker, that the people who are saying, no, now you are targeting the people who served in the former regime. You are targeting DCI Kinoti. What is targeting DCI Kinoti and those who are in office when it was official government policy to force disappearances of Kenyans and kill Kenyans and dump their bodies in River Yala, in River Tana? You remember, Honorable Speaker, I think close to 30 bodies were fished out of River Yala. Another close to 20 bodies were fished out of River Tana, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, we cannot say that anybody is being targeted. And I know because some of them today have been invited to the DCI on small matters. When the time comes, I want to ask DCI Amin not to fear anybody. Those who sanctioned and commissioned the extrajudicial killings of very many innocent Kenyans must answer, Honorable Speaker. And we must be a nation where we don't bury our history in the sand. The only reason, Honorable Speaker, why things keep repeating themselves and get into a vicious cycle of repeating the same mistakes as a country is because we never hold anybody to account. It cannot be, Honorable Speaker, that, as this petitioner says, close to 1,200 people have disappeared into thin air, and you didn't see them rise with the Holy Spirit like Jesus Christ did. They just disappeared. Some, their bodies are found, others, their bodies are never found, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, we must get to the root cause of all these things, Honorable Speaker. And I am glad, Honorable Speaker, that under this regime, none other than His Excellency President William Ruto has asserted that every person who is arrested by a police officer must be presented before a police station, recorded in an OB, and charged before a court of law, and not to be killed, as was happening before, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is not just cases of terrorism. Honorable Speaker, you know that famous saying that says when they came for journalists, we were quiet because we were not them. When they went for farmers, you were quiet, you were not them. Until they came for you. That is what happened in this country, Honorable Speaker. We tolerated the extrajudicial killings of certain communities in this country on the basis that they were working with terrorists. And eventually, Honorable Speaker, it came to us. It came to our own neighborhoods. I do not think there is any member of parliament who, if not in your constituency, in your county, you know someone who has been a subject of these enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, as a responsible house, as leaders who value the sanctity of life, we must stand up to be counted. And I really want to challenge the Public Petitions Committee to not only ensure that there are legal mechanisms put in place, and that is a challenge to all of us as a house, but to also ensure that we do not bury what happened in yesteryears under the sand. Whether it is DCI Kinoti, who was in charge of DCI, whether it is Fred Matiangi, who was the minister in charge, or whether it is the ultimate authority where the buck stopped the office of the president, people who must be held to account for the extrajudicial killings of Kenya must and should be held to account, and this House must rise to the occasion to ensure that that happens by recommending a commission of inquiry.
Order majority, yes. Honorable TJ Kajwang. Okay. Give the Honorable
Mr.
TJ.
Speaker, the member for Kikuyu, as he was speaking very well, but I do not know at what point he became, he changed from being member of Kikuyu to being the majority leader. Because then when he became a majority leader, he assumed certain things that should not happen on this floor. Mr. Speaker, he has been mentioning names, whereas I don't hold brief for anybody, anywhere, however mentioned. But our standing orders and the Constitution itself is clear that no one would be mentioned adversely without giving him a hearing or without his presence. Mr. Speaker, is it in order to mention those people that he has named in person, and yet they do not have an opportunity to defend themselves, Mr. Speaker?
Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I thought the Honorable TJ is usually rattled if I mention the Ruaraka land scandal and Ruaraka constituency, but today I didn't. I only mentioned people who were in office at the time crimes against humanity were carried out in this country. And the person who was in charge of DCI is the person that I have named, DCI Kinoti. The person who was in charge of the interior was CS Matiangi, who happens to have visited the DCI today in poetic justice, Honorable Speaker. And the person where the buck stopped was the president. Just like today, the buck stops in the office of the President of the Republic of Kenya, William Ruto, if there are any extrajudicial killings.
Yes, Honorable Kajwang, what is out of order? He has not adversely mentioned anybody. He simply said they were in office and they were.
That's not what he said, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
yes,
maybe you may want, when you retire, to look at the Hansard.
Yes.
What he is saying is even making it worse. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to play politics with this. And we must never play politics with people who do not have a right to respond. All I said, all that the majority leader mentioned before he recasted his speech was that these persons should be investigated by some agencies. Now, for them to be investigated, it is an adverse finding which, in his opinion, he thinks that these people are somehow. Should he mention it as a matter of order, Mr. Speaker? I'm just asking, is it in order to mention people without giving them an opportunity to be heard? Isn't that simple, Mr. Speaker?
I hear you, Honorable Kajwang. Yeah. What I heard, and we'll check the Hansard, is that DCI was headed by Kinoti, which is fact. Interior Minister was Matiangi, which was fact. And the head of state is fact. If he goes beyond that, I'll stop him.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for that protection. And you know, I am a very careful person with what I say here. And anywhere else I speak, Honorable Speaker. But let us not run away from the truth, Honorable Speaker. That was my point. And the committee should not be afraid. And all investigative authorities that would investigate such matters should not be afraid, Honorable Speaker. Because I was saying, if we do not deal with our past, Honorable Speaker, nothing stops other regimes, even in the future, from carrying out such extrajudicial killings, unless, Honorable Speaker, people are held to account. Honorable Speaker, you know where we came from before the elections? Many of us lived under extreme fear and threat to life, Honorable Speaker. I vividly recall, Honorable Speaker, when, not Honorable, my good friend, Dennis Itumbi, was abducted just before Christmas of 2021. Honorable Speaker, the people who abducted Dennis Itumbi were actually police officers. And it took us not less than 6 hours to even get information from other officers who gave us information that indeed Dennis Itumbi was in the hands of a murderous squad within the police, and specifically the agency that was then under DCI, Kinoti, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I'm only saying this committee should do this country a great honor in recommending that we institute a commission of inquiry such that, Honorable Speaker, it will be known the families of hundreds of Kenyans who have disappeared and they have never seen their bodies. Let them know, Honorable Speaker, what happened to their children and their family members. Hundreds of Kenyans, Honorable Speaker. Today, I was watching when I had the member for Buri speak about Mbijiwe. And I read the story of Mbijiwe, I think, this Sunday in one of the dailies, Honorable Speaker, that the manner in which he disappeared, Honorable Speaker, leaves a lot of questions and there are pointers as to who would have been responsible for their disappearance. And the case of Mbijiwe, the case of young Mishuki from my constituency, and many other Kenyans are similar, Honorable Speaker. And unless we dig and get to the root cause, you never know. Many of the people who are forcing disappearances are still in some offices today. They still wield the same power and authority they wielded yesterday. Nothing will stop them from enforcing probably even the disappearance of members of parliament if we keep quiet. And that's why I'm saying we must not be quiet. Whether it is somebody in Northeastern, whether it is somebody from the coastal region, as Honorable and Baya says, or whether it is someone who is perceived to have been in groups like Mungiki or Chinkororo in Kisii, or whether it is someone that you disagree with politically. Because I was saying, Honorable Speaker, when we kept quiet, because we assumed it is a spirited fight against terrorists, and it is terrorists who are disappearing, they came for politicians. They came for political activists. They went after bloggers. Literally everybody, Honorable Speaker. You remember the threat people are being forced, Honorable Speaker, to subscribe to political ideals and ideologies that they do not believe in. But out of fear, Honorable Speaker, it is a fact. There are even people who are elected in parties they never desired to be in because they lived under extreme fear. They were not like Kimani Ichungwah, who had the audacity to challenge people and tell them that the worst they can do. And I have said it, Honorable Speaker, I said it in an interview in one of the media houses, Honorable Speaker, in a recorded interview. And that particular media house, because of bias, and I have seen the attack they have leveled against my compatriot, the Honorable Aaron Cheruiyot, when he speaks about a biased media and cartels in the media houses, because they exist. And nobody is fighting media. We all want a free and objective media. And there is absolutely nothing wrong, Honorable Speaker, with even the media being biased. The media can be biased, but just be kind enough and tell Kenyans where you stand and what political leanings you subscribe to. It is not a secret, Honorable Speaker, that in America everybody knew that Fox News was with the Republicans and was supporting the former President Donald Trump. Many people knew CNN was supporting the Democrats, Honorable Speaker. So that you give Kenyans the latitude of choice to know, if I switch to this station, I will not be influenced by a media that pretends to be objective, but they are very subjective and biased. I was saying, Honorable Speaker, because I said in one of the media stations in an interview that at one point the Commander-in-Chief called me and threatened me. And I told him that the worst he could do was to kill me, but I would not change my position and my stand politically because of a fear of death. And I would never change my position on what I truly believe in, Honorable Speaker. And I say it here because those media houses, because they are biased, they could not even carry that interview. The entire interview, Honorable Speaker, was cancelled. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, let us not be fearful. Let us stand up for what is right and just. Life is sacred. Life is God-given, and no man has authority and power, however powerful they think they are, to take away another man's life, as happened, especially in the last 4 years, Honorable Speaker. It is sad, and we must never see our country degenerate again to the level it degenerated under the handshake regime of before August 8th, 2022. With that, Honorable Speaker, I really want to beg, and Honorable Speaker, forgive me because this is very emotional for me. I really want to beg the chair of this committee and members of the Public Petitions Committee not to treat this petition as any other petition. Let us take it with the weight it deserves. If we truly believe in God, if we truly believe in the sanctity of life, and that God is the only giver and taker of life, not governments, not presidents, not cabinet secretaries, not Inspector General of Police, not police corporals, nobody other than God should have the will and the power to give and take away life. Honorable Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The last one on these petitions, the member for Kamkunji. Give him the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity to me to speak on supporting the petition by our sister on judicial killings and disappearances. And I want to echo the feelings expressed by other members of Parliament. And I speak as a member of Parliament whose constituency has been seriously affected by this particular problem. I've had many, many disappearances of people in my constituency. I remember Abdi Karura and Dr. Waititu, who suddenly disappeared one day from Majengo. I remember the killing of Bashir Mohammed, a businessman who had a strong association with my constituency, and many, many others. And to be honest, this is not something that should happen in any functioning democracy. It is something that you expect to happen in countries where, with failed states, in countries where the government simply does not have the support and the authority of the population in which it is based on. So I fully support the idea of creating a commission of inquiry to look at this issue and to go in depth and bring closure to many families who have lost their loved ones. Many of the people who have been killed in this kind of circumstances and many of the disappearances are people like us. They are fathers, they are sons, they are husbands. They leave families who are completely baffled and traumatized up to this moment because they don't know what had happened to their loved ones. So it is our responsibility as members of Parliament to make sure that in this democracy, in this fragile democracy we have in our country, young and fragile democracy, that we make sure that no Kenyan life is taken with no reason whatsoever.